Hey guys, so it occurred to me that it would be useful if I gave you a little clue on how to set up your script for animating these guys. I think especially when you're dealing with something where you have, a script from or a rig from someone else, a lot of times, the rigger will have kind of taken care of that and put all the controllers under a single clickable item in the outliner. But sometimes they haven't, and sometimes even what they have done doesn't necessarily work right. So I want to kind of refresh your memory, and it may take you a couple tries to get everything right, but that's okay. That's how you learn. So anyway, I'm just going to show you on this second set of rigs I gave you guys. Since I didn't walk through them, I'll show you how to kind of make Dumbo, make a set for Dumbo, so you can kind of see how that works. And I'll also go over how these little eye controllers and stuff work on the Squirrely here, and maybe on Coco too. Anyway, okay, so here you are. You start out with this, and essentially what you want to do, with Mikey, you only had like 3 or 4 controllers to work with, so it was really easy to pick them in your scene or even in the outliner, and then make a script for them because they were pretty evident. There was pretty limited stuff. In rigs that you don't know anything about, sometimes you've got 20 or 30 or 40 controllers, so you want to make sure you can grab all of them to make your script. Okay, and remember, I'll bring our script up here, our script editor up here, so you can see it. This is the little button you use to just clear everything out. Okay, so if I just did what would seem like a logical thing to just grab all this stuff, it's like, oh, okay, maybe that would work. I don't know. In some cases, if you do something like that, like with Squirrely here, and you grab a bunch of stuff, you're going to get things that you don't necessarily want. Okay. In some cases, you'll get like the entire mesh. Okay. Sometimes those things will end up being selected too. So what you want to do is filter out the things that you don't want, so that you only get the stuff that you're going to be animating. Okay. So how do you do that? You use these little guys up here. Okay, these little tools are essentially filters. I don't know what they're actually called in Maya, but you can turn off certain things, categories of things, so that they don't get selected. So like this guy right here is for polygon objects. I'm going to turn that off. I don't want polygons. This is for dynamics. I don't want that. And if you just hover over here, it'll show you what's that. Deformation objects, I'm going to leave that on because sometimes these curves deform, so I'm just going to let that be. This is the one I really want to make sure is on. This is my curve objects. So when riggers put stuff together, they link the joints typically to curves. Okay, part of the reason is because they are very easy to pick, and part of it is they can create those curves in shapes that make sense, like the eye shapes here, or the head, or the body, the hips, and things like that. So it's easy to figure out what to click on. So those are then parented to the joints, because you don't want to be delving inside this stuff to be grabbing joints. The joints are in there, you don't want to touch them. Just like you don't want to touch the geometry, you're going to be using the curves to select that stuff. Okay, so joints, I want that turned off. Okay, because remember, this stuff is actually picking the joints for me. Okay, and then this is kind of a handle objects. I'm going to just turn that off. I don't even know what that means. Okay, so you can kind of see what happened here. I start turning things on and off. I'm going to clear this. Okay, and I just want to drag a box over all of Dumbo's stuff. Oops, I got some of Squirrely. I don't want that. Okay, I'm going to clear this again. Okay, so you have to be cautious about what you grab and don't grab. And you can literally see the joints in here, but because I have this filter on, I'm not going to be grabbing those. Okay, so I'm just going to go like this, being careful where to start and stop this thing. Okay, and I've got all this selected. I don't remember if I cleared this. I better clear it again. I'll do it one more time. So that is my deselect here. I'm going to do this one more time, like so. Okay, got all those guys. I'm going to triple click this. That's going to select the whole line of this because it's rather long. Okay, so click, 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 like that. With it selected, all I need to do is click Save Script to Shelf. Give it a name. I'm going to call it Dumbo. Click OK. And it's always going to ask you, do you want this to be a Python script or a Mel script? anything you're doing when you're picking stuff inside of Maya, it's going to be a MEL script. MEL stands for Maya Embedded Language. So the M clues you in, it's Maya. Okay, Python is a more generic scripting language you can use in all sorts of applications. It's a lot of times when people write plugins and things, they write them in Python, where you'd actually have to source the script down here. But for this, MEL is cool. You click OK, MEL, like that, like so. Okay, so if you look over in the outliner, you're going to see one of these things called Dumbo Group. So it kind of looks like, oh, well, maybe this does the same thing. I'm going to close this right now. Okay, so I can try that. If you have a sort of a rig and you want to just give it a go for it. Let's go to frame 1 here. Got that Dumbo Group selected. Hit the S key. Say go over to frame 7 here, and I'll just lift his foot up and see if that works, if that does the same kind of thing. Okay, click on this, hit S. Does it work? Well, no, it does not work. Okay, so that lets me know, well, that's no good. I'm going to undo that. I probably should have showed you that before I did the script thing, but that's okay. Just keying back to where that was gone. Okay, so let's try my script, or the script, our script, everybody's script. And remember, you're going to do this for whatever character or characters you decide to use, because you always want to key this stuff every time you change something. Even though you're only changing the foot, you want to key everything, because you inadvertently may miss something otherwise and end up with a foot that sticks around or goes through someone's head or something like that. It just solves a lot of problems. And there is a place later that you can clear out all the static channels. If you go to edit, delete by type, there's a channels, static channels here, which means channels that are just 0, they don't do anything. Okay, so you can always clean those out if you want to clean up your stuff so you can organize stuff or see things more easily in the graph editor or the dope sheet. That's the way to do that. But initially, this is what you're going to want to do. Okay, so you click that little guy. Okay, you'll notice he's changed to white, a little different than what we had before. I'm going to hit the S key, okay, at that point. And I'm just going to zoom in on him a little bit here so I can kind of see what I'm doing. All right, I've got a little render view going here too. Okay, then I'm just going to, try out my rig. And this is something you guys should always do anyway. Kind of mess around with it, see what, what works, how stuff works. Okay, so I'm going to grab that, and I'm still at frame 0. Oopsie, bad me. Go to frame 7, okay. So I want to pick up this leg, okay, and I'm going to tilt his head back. Just hit the E key here, and I'm going to play around with his arms a little bit, see what they do. Let's just move his hand like this, okay. So he's just doing a little wiggy thing. And again, this is really something good to do. This not only tests out whether your script is working, but this gives you an idea of how your guy's going to move. Okay, so this is an IK handle, which means if I push this or bend this, at some point, hopefully the elbow will bend. Doesn't look like it's doing it yet. Okay, it's okay. I will not worry about that right now. Okay, just like that. Looking, there it goes. Okay. All right, maybe just lift that up a bit more. Kind of like that. Oh, and I want to try out the body here too. So these little rings are going to determine where, where he bends for what point. Okay. So if I move down one here, and again, it's just a cool way to, just be able to do this stuff like he's doing that. Okay, so he's doing that at frame 7. Pick this, even though I've kind of deselected things and done other stuff, click on that, hit the S key at frame 7. Okay, and hopefully now he will, yeah, he moves. Okay, so go like to frame 12. Let's just, sorry, I hate, I don't get to animate very often, so once I do a demo for you guys, it's kind of fun to do it. I'm going to pull that down. I'm going to bend him forward, more like this. I think I did this one too. So let's bend that. I kind of move my way up the chain here. Skip one. Let's do his head moving down, like he's some kind of just awesomely hip dancer. slide that in. Just kind of pivot this over a little bit more like this. Pull this guy over here. And let's just slide that in a bit more. Maybe it overlaps with that one like that. Okay, and then let's lift this leg up. We had the other one before. Okay. Maybe this should go move down a little bit in general. One of these will probably move his whole body down and pin the legs a little bit too, but I haven't looked at that yet. Again, I haven't used this rig before, so I'm kind of learning it while I'm showing you guys stuff, so which is cool. All right, click on this, hit S. Okay, and let's see what that does. Oh yeah, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom. Oh yeah, he's throwing himself up in the air here, nice. All right, yeah, nice. Okay, that's cool. And you know, helps if you deselect things a little bit, but you can see him in the little render window down here doing his thing, doing his best to do it like that. So it's that easy, you know. Once you get that script in there, you know, your stuff is just going to organize itself. It's just super great to be able to, you know, get that workflow. Once you get that workflow down, it makes things so much easier, because then you can forget about all the nuts and bolts of picking things, because it's going to be picked for you. Okay, and then you can just concentrate on the motion, moving the time, the keys, you know, going back, you know, noodling with the graphs as well, so that you can, you know, create more abrupt motion or smooth motion. You know, by default, it's going to be flat curves, which are smooth. So you're going to get a little bit of an ease in, ease out as you go. But you can always, you know, flip those to a, you know, a harder edge, you know, the V-shaped curves where things hit. Easy peasy like that. So some of these rigs, I'll just kind of, you know, get rid of Dumbo here. Now, you know that some of these rigs are going to come with their own little sets of controls. Okay, like this little guy. Okay, you got an eye thing. I roll his eyes in a little bit of trouble there. Right brow. Okay. Oop da, oop da. Oh, nice. Oh, that's cool. It kind of lifts up as it goes farther down. Nice. Nice. I don't know what this one is, an ear thing. Clearly. Yeah, nice. So this is Coco. The head. Oh, oops. What happened to his nose? Gotta watch that. Ah, it's a squash and stretch kind of a thing. Be careful with those. They can get kind of wacky. Okay. Eye motion. A lot of times these controllers are also duplicated out here, where you'll have a kind of a thing that's going to be an aim constraint where you can point things in a certain way and have it look. Okay, like so. So how do you deal with this script thing when you do that? Well, you're going to basically make a script for the body. Okay, you're going to do a thing with all of this stuff. Okay, and then you're also probably going to do a separate script for this, because initially what I would suggest you do is animate the body, you know, do your regular stuff, then go back in and animate the controls for the face and things like that. Okay, so I would break these down into two separate things. You'd have two separate scripts up here. So initially you'll be doing the gross movements, which is what I always say, you know, work from the general to the specific, and then any expressions or things like that or reactions to sound you will do separately with this kind of stuff, and maybe I'll do a separate demo on that at some point. You will find too that some rigs, like Squirrely here, come with their own cameras. Okay, I think these menus came from Squirrely too. Every time I open it, it throws another one up there. It's kind of annoying. FKIK switch is kind of a deal in here where you have you either can move these arm joints individually like this, or like Dumbo where you have a single controller that as you push it in, it behaves more like your actual hand and arm would do. So FK means you're moving each joint separately. IK means you move the end of the joint and pull that or push that wherever you go, and the other joints will follow along. Okay, IK stands for inverse kinematics, FK stands for forward kinematics, for what that's worth. Okay, so Squirrely here has his own little eye machine here, and you can see the type got all screwed up, but don't really need that. You'll mostly just be kind of using this to, you can pretty much figure out there aren't a whole lot of things going on here. That's eye left and right. I don't know what this does. So this is all eye stuff, it looks like. Let's see what this does. Yeah, so this is just his eye controller. And then there's a separate face system for him, okay? And these are both on cameras, okay? So if I go to panels here, I'm going to split this viewport into two separate panes, okay? So you go to layouts, two panes side by side, like that, okay? And you can see here, I can then change, this is my perspective view, I can then change one of these to this squirrely view, okay? So squirrely eyes cam, boop, like so, and then we also have squirrely face cam. Ah, yeah, that's scary. Okay, I can zoom out on that a little bit, like so. Okay, so it just allows you, it's basically something the rigger sets up, a separate camera that's fixed, always going to be looking right at this guy's face in an ortho view, like this. And that brings up something else that it would be good for you to know in terms of animating. So you would pick all these guys and essentially create your own script for this as well. Okay, and for this, I would probably do the whole body. Okay, because I would do the eye stuff separately, but this kind of rolls right into the body here. So I would probably do the whole body for this part of the script for Squirrely. Okay, and something good to know too, when you kind of see when you do things like this, okay, instead of moving these arrows like this by hand, you can pick things like this, for instance, and wherever you see this yellow arrow, you can use the middle mouse to just drag and it will go in that direction. So you don't literally have to do it on the arrow. So if I click this one and turn it into yellow, I can use the middle mouse and drag this way. This works with everything in Maya, okay? So if I click these little controllers on the side, it picks all three of these, okay? And I can animate him going like that, or opening and closing his mouth like this, okay? Good thing to know, okay, because that's super easy then to use, especially in a context like this where you're having a little more trouble. He's kind of an ornery character too. He's kind of mean, I think. I think Squirrely's a little mean, personally. Maybe not. Maybe he's very, very friendly. I don't know. Even when he smiles, he looks kind of creepy to me, like he's got something else going on. Boy, is this going off the rails. Okay. Anyway, that's something to pay attention to when you get these rigs. Check the camera views up here. Okay, make sure some of these you're going to have special cameras just for your particular rig, and that may influence which rigs you want to use too. Okay, in this case, Coco doesn't have one, but this thing is connected to Coco's head, I believe. That's why it's tilted like this. So if I grab this and rotate it, I think that whole thing moves. Yeah. So you can kind of see that kind of travels along with it. Coco's a pretty nice rig. The rendering of it is a little weird because it's got some crazy materials in there, but usually it's easy enough to delve down and pick the actual geometry and fix it if need be. Other thing to realize is sometimes when you look at your camera view, you may not see everything. I will let you know that depending on where the rigger placed their perspective or their ortho camera, sometimes it's outside the sky dome, so the sky dome will obscure it. I just stuck a sky dome in here so I could render Dumbo and let you guys see what I was doing. And what I'll do usually is just put my lights in a separate layer, okay? So I can turn them into reference mode down here, which means I can still see them in render, but I will not be able to pick them, okay? So that's useful. Okay, so in review, remember these guys, these filters, super useful. You can also turn stuff off in here, if you don't want things to show up or if things are bugging you. That is a per window view, so you can see some things in some views and some in others. So for instance, if your sky dome is getting in the way in this view, you can just turn off lights in this view. It should still render in your other view. Okay, so Maya is really flexible like that, and it's going to give you a lot of options in terms of how to be able to select things, hide things, move things, all that stuff, which you really want to streamline stuff for animating, because you don't want to be thinking about lots of technical stuff. It really is great to just be able to grab something, use your middle mouse button, do that, click a button, hit S, and then on to the next thing. Okay, so really, really simple, easy scripts. And I hope that made a little more sense for you, because I just kind of threw it out there before in my previous review of the rigs. But hopefully that'll give you a little more of a opportunity to try it out and see if you can get it to work. And as usual, you can always get in touch with me if you need to, and I can help you figure that out. I can even do the script with you if that helps. Okay, so there you go. More to come. Stay tuned. Animate.